I will be a father to him, and he'll be a son to me. When he does wrong, I'll discipline him in the usual ways, the pitfalls and obstacles of his mortal life. But I'll never remove my gracious love from him. Do everything in love.
Good morning and happy Father's Day. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Craig Tyrl, and I have been a proud member of IUCC for the last 15 years. Thank you. I remember when I was in search of a church home. As a gay man with a master's degree in theology, I was looking for a home that reflected my own progressive thinking and accepted me for exactly who I am. So it was at the 8:30 early service at that time, sitting in this center section in the back row. And Barbara Moss in her knitting was the first person to greet me. And I listened quietly back there to this extravagant welcome that was open and affirming, proudly progressive, creatively spiritual, and intentionally inclusive. And by the time we got to the hymn, I don't remember the specific title of it, I just remember the lyrics spoke of atoms and molecules and evolutionary thinking, and at that moment I was like, wow, Eureka, from the Greek, I have found it. And my heart leapt for joy because I knew this was my home, the place that I had been searching for. I've heard that shared experience from many of you in your first time, and I am grateful that you are my church family. And I'm grateful to Pastor Sarah, and I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to speak with you this morning. I'd like to start today with some reflections on my own father, my fatherhood story. I love my dad. He is still with us. He's 79 years old. He's a retired university professor emeritus of botany from Oklahoma State University. He was a strict, loving father, and had little patience for misbehavior, and he managed behavior with a belt. And as a young man, I was prone to lying. I was prone to setting things on fire with matches. I liked to steal money to go play video games at the local arcade. I snuck the car out one too many times before I was 16. Needless to say, I knew the belt well, and I felt like I was perpetually grounded. Didn't think I would ever get my license. I often say that everything good about me and everything bad about me in some ways I owe to my father. I can look and sort of analyze a lot of my strengths and weaknesses as a person today. On the one hand, I grew up in an atmosphere of fear, and I did have to walk on eggshells, and at times I was uncertain of my dad's love. And I've grown into a man now in my 50s who, on occasion, I am prone to neurotic thinking. I like to say I suffer from Chicken Little syndrome. I can get overwhelmed with the sense that the sky is falling, and I catastrophize things. I'm a people pleaser. I avoid conflict like the plague because there's always this worry and the sense I don't want to get in trouble, because I was in trouble a lot when I was growing up. But on the other hand, my father, my moral compass and work ethic, I think I owe a great deal to my father as well, because he taught many important lessons which are now deeply ingrained with me down to the molecular level. Because it was my dad that said, you show up early and you stay late and you always help to put away chairs. If you mow your lawn, you mow your neighbor's lawn without asking. Be careful of what you say, because words have power. You can be anything you want in this world. Just remember that hard work supersedes talent. He said also, if you have sex, no matter who he or she may be, use a condom. was a little scared to say that one this morning. But my dad said those exact words to me the day I pulled out of our driveway at 18 years old, my car packed to the hilt, officially moving away from home, moving to the East Coast to go to college. At that time, 18, still young, in the closet, gay young man. Those words, his use of the male pronoun, did not go unnoticed. And I knew in that moment that despite, as the scripture says, the pitfalls and obstacles I have endured, that my dad's love indeed was unwavering and not to be removed. Today, some of my best moments with my dad are when I am home in Oklahoma. We'll sit in the hot tub. As he says, we like to talk about the meaning of life, and we discuss the existential state of things and connect as two human beings who can recognize in each other that we've both done our best in this crazy, mysterious, wonderful, fascinating, complex sojourn of life. That's my father's story. I think today gives us an opportunity for all of us to think about our own individual father stories. Yes, fathers, they come in all shapes and sizes and shared experiences. Some of us may not have known a father. Some of us may have multiple fathers. Some of our fathers may have passed on, while other fathers we get to see every day. We may be estranged from our fathers, or we may be daddy's little girl, or daddy's little boy, or daddy's non-binary miracle. Fathers are diverse, but we all share, whether we like it or not, a fatherhood story. Fatherhood, or the lack thereof, is inextricably woven into the fabric of who we are, our identities, our psyches, our human personhood. So I ask you, what is your fatherhood story? What are your obstacles and pitfalls experienced along the way? I speak today in terms of stories because I'm also blessed in some ways to be a storyteller. For those of you that don't know, I work professionally in the world of theater. I'm first a teacher. I teach at Cal State Fullerton Department of Theater and Dance, teaching the history and passion of theater and stories to young people. I'm second, a director. I like to tell other people's stories and produce their stories. I have a full-time job on top of my full-time job as the founding artistic director of The Wayward Artist. I'm third, an actor. I like to perform other people's stories. And although I do have an MFA in acting, I don't do it that often anymore. Acting, it always creates a little anxiety for me, so I only do it about every leap year. I like to say every 4 years. The bug will come out and I'll want to perform. Stories. Stories have power. Stories reflect our understanding of the world. Stories can challenge the way we think about ourselves and the world that we live in. Stories can transform the entire human conversation. This community, in some ways, is grounded on the Jesus story, made manifest through this church, through our community. And I'm reminded also today of the Summer of Arts that we had, shepherded by Steve Swope and Pastor Paul's last year before retirement. I think it was 2019 that brought theater and acting and dance and song and musics of all type to our worship service. And as your worship chair, I work as best I can with Pastor Sarah to find creative and imaginative ways to bring the performing arts and things to our worship service. And it's for that reason today that I thought I could share one more story, which is a story by a playwright, Jose Rivera, in a play, Sonnets for an Old Century. It's a collection of monologues, and one of those monologues is a monologue about fatherhood that I thought was appropriate for today. But before I share that, I would like just to take a moment for all of us to consider our second scripture of the day, to do all things in love. I'm reminded of interim pastor David Petit's constant refrain. I think he said it in almost every service, that we are created to love, that we are love creatures. So today I've shared my fatherhood story. I've asked you to think about your own fatherhood story. I'm about to share a fatherhood story by Jose Rivera. Before we go to bed tonight and lay ourselves down to sleep, I might ask you, do these stories, can we find our way towards the action of love? What kind word, what generous deed, what charitable act, what compassionate moment, what text, what phone call, what letter, what act of love can we put out there for the world? What prayer for ourselves or for others? It is in love that I now share this performance with you. It is not an understatement. 15 years is a chunk of time, and there's been a lot of ups and downs in that 15 years. And to have had this community supporting me along that way is something I cherish and value deeply. And so it's in love that in this leap year I'm going to go through the anxiety of performing for you and share this story of fatherhood. Three days in the city. Day one. I'm walking up Hollywood Boulevard with my son. We're taking pictures of the stars on the sidewalk, trying not to stare at people. A man made with a hat, with this hat made of television parts. Homeless women picking scabs. Whew. Teenagers so thin they disappear, like the sideways view of the rings of Saturn. Scientologists in neat blue uniforms walking briskly to their nautical salvation. In Dayton, Ohio, you don't see these kinds of variations. A couple limos whispering past. A few times I thought I saw someone famous. Day one in the city. We go to this big candy store. My son, he has died and gone to heaven. He buys these little packets of false tattoos. I guess all the kids wear them. I'm sitting there wondering what forms of brilliant rebellion he's going to be into by the time he's a teenager. But he puts this Jurassic Park tattoo on his arm and he begs me. Begs me to put one on my arm, but I didn't want to because I felt silly, of course. But it's the first time that he and I have spent an entire day together in 6 months. Every second of the day was him and me. He asked me a million why questions. Why, Dad? Why? Why? It's that phase. And I can see more of myself in him than ever before. Recognize my own reactions. It wasn't always like that, though. I resented his birth. It was unplanned, it was unexpected, and I went into a nosedive. I fretted so obsessively about money that I had to go into counseling, and I fought with my wife. Hated waking up every morning. I looked longingly at younger unattached women. I dreamt of my own attachment. I'd hold my newborn son and feel nothing. His crying grated on me. I had this reoccurring fantasy that I ran away and was never heard from again. Then one night, it was 2 or 3 in the morning, His crying woke me up, and I told my wife, I'll give him a bottle. So I went downstairs. The whole house was silent, only one light burned near us. And I held my son in the living room. It was only a few seconds before that miracle happened. It was suddenly as if I had been awakened from this deep and troubling sleep, and I was instantly aware, that I had a son. A son. I was looking at him as if I'd never seen him before. And in that second, I remember it so vividly even now, in that second, I remember falling deeply in love with him. It was the first time in my entire life I have ever known the fall of falling in love. A swift, endless drop. Wind blowing in my face down this perfectly delicious abyss. And I held him. And I cried with him. And I didn't want to let go. Not now, not ever, not for a single day of the rest of my life. Anyway, there we were in this labyrinthine candy store, and he's begging me to put a tattoo on my arm. So I relent. We go back out on Hollywood Boulevard, looking in these absurd lingerie stores, trying to explain that to this little boy. Trying not to stand out. Just trying to find our way home. Day 2. Imagine my surprise. I'm crossing the street in Beverly Hills, not watching where I'm going because I'm busy eyeing some extraordinary blonde in a top I swear they would have prosecuted her for in Dayton. I step off the curb and a limo plows me down at top speed, sending me to the intensive care unit at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Day 3. Here I am. Can you tell me how to get a word to my son? Because I want him to know I'm okay. A father is always with you. Thank you very much. Amen.